Well, Sultan Barakat joins us here in the studio. He's a professor of public policy at Hamad Bin Khalifa University. Thank you and good to see you. We're talking about the maritime corridor that's being opened up from Cyprus to Gaza, this pier that the US Navy is going to be building off Gaza to try and get much-needed aid in. Look, the first question that strikes me is, it's interesting that we're suddenly now focused on what's happening on a Mediterranean island in a port called Larnaca, when we should be looking at what's happening at trucks full of aid blocked at the Egyptian border. Is this, in some sense, a convenient distraction, as has been alleged by the UN and others?
Well, I think it is. I think it's one of the main purposes of making this announcement at this particular time. The other one, of course, it serves domestically for President Biden, given the pressure on him to say something constructive related to Palestine, particularly during the State of Union address. He had hoped to be able to present a ceasefire. That wasn't happening, so this is a convenient sort of second choice for something that he can offer to the Americans. And you can see from his partners in this project, I mean, it's the EU and Ursula, what's her name? Ursula von der Leyen, yes, and the United Arab Emirates. And those are all sides that were very pro-Israel.
Yeah.
And suddenly now they're trying to come up with an alternative.
Well, I can certainly see the convenience for all of them to line up behind this plan because, frankly, they've been unable to exercise any other plan. I'm not sure I agree that this is useful for President Biden. I know he made the announcement in the State of the Union address, but in a sense, this is fuel to his critics, who are then able to turn around and say, look, the only reason you're doing this is because you weren't able or willing to exercise your influence to get the Israelis to allow aid in through border crossings. It is their legal obligation to provide humanitarian aid, in which they have been failing to do, and the US has done nothing about it.
Sure, I think the ideal situation would be to stop the killing. And within the UN circles, they use something called feeding the dead. It's a term that was developed during the Bosnia War in the early 1990s, where you know 100% where the solution is. The solution is in stopping the killing. And in the case of the United States, the supply of weapons, the intelligence, the political cover that he's been providing for Netanyahu, all of this has led to where we are today. So he knows that is the answer. But in his, I think, internal domestic politics, it's not all about actually achieving the right solution. It's about the vibes. It's about the message that he's sending out there. He's trying to present himself as sympathetic with the Palestinians and try and win some of the Arab American votes. But when it comes to the practicality, there has never been a problem in crossing the Mediterranean with aid. Aid has been coming to Al Arish. Al Arish is an Egyptian port very close to Gaza. The problem is in crossing the boundaries of Gaza. That's number one. And number two is in distributing the aid. With Israel having destroyed the infrastructure, even if you were to bring the aid to a point on the coast within Gaza, you're only going to create another bottleneck. There is no way to redistribute this aid as it should be across the strip. And of course, this is what I think most aid agencies will be thinking about. It's not about getting it just in. It's how do you get it to the individuals that need it most.
Yeah, and nobody's coming up with a plan for distribution.
That's
on the ground.
I think it's a cynical attempt.
Well, it has that sort of slightly performative look about it, doesn't it? And the other big issue, of course, that critics raise is the risk that this serves to, in a sense, legitimize the blockade, because if you can open a successful pathway or highway for food aid across the sea, why do you need a highway for food aid across land?
Look, had this been done under a United Nations resolution, I think would have been a positive step towards internationalizing the conflict in Gaza, and maybe a first step towards offering international protection to the Palestinians, which says we, the international community, are concerned. Therefore, we have put a coalition to break this blockade against the Palestinians, and we will, whatever happens, we will allow food in. But unfortunately, that's not what is going on. What is going on, and according to what Biden has just said in the morning, he is going to look for Israel to A, construct, and B, secure this floating port, whatever he's thinking about. Now that risks engaging the Israelis in a double occupation. I mean, already their 1967 occupation of Gaza is there. Now, literally, they are occupying Gaza. And it is their responsibility to provide for the people of Gaza. So by allowing them again to undertake that responsibility, he is enforcing their occupation of the land at this moment.
Legitimizing.
Or legitimizing it, yes.
Sultan Barakat, thanks for your thoughts.
Thank you.